All right, major news out of North Carolina. We've been following this one. It took 6 months and thousands of lawsuits, a Trump-appointed judge, and more than 68,000 voters being nearly disenfranchised, but we can say that it is finally over. Republican Jefferson Griffin has finally conceded in the North Carolina Supreme Court race to Democrat Allison Riggs, who was on this show recently. She is officially the winner. Now, let's be extraordinarily clear about what happened. This was not like a close call disagreement about a handful of ballots. This was an attempted election theft, and they dressed it up with the language of election integrity, which is now just the standard operating procedure for the Republican Party. Jefferson Griffin lost. He lost fair and square by 734 votes. They did 2 recounts. They did a partial hand recount. It was clear he lost the race. But instead of conceding like a big boy, he and the North Carolina Republican Party launched this bogus scorched earth legal assault on more than 65,000 ballots in that race. They targeted overseas voters. They targeted military voters. They targeted people missing paperwork that never disqualified them under the law. They just said, well, they're missing certain paperwork. Well, that's not required under the law. Doesn't matter. Griffin lost at every stage. And ultimately, Griffin lost in front of Trump-appointed federal judge Richard Myers, who had the guts. Does it really take guts? Who had the guts, I guess, to tell them that you establish the rules before the game. You can't change them after the game is done. And that's exactly what they were trying to do. We spoke to Judge Riggs about this. And what became clear was that after the election, they wanted to apply retroactively rules and regulations with regard to voting that were not in the law at the time of the election. You can't do that. This is one of the greater principles of justice. And Griffin dragged this on for months and months and months. So it's great that Judge Riggs won. Obviously, that's the practical victory here. But this all is part of the Republican playbook, and it's been increasingly overtly their playbook now for many years. You lose an election. That's the trigger. If you win, obviously, it was totally fair. There's no reason to look into anything. Step 1 is you lose an election. Number 2, no matter the results, no matter how absurd, you challenge those results in court. And you hope to get a MAGA-friendly judge to overturn it, or at the very least, to undermine public faith in the result. Tie things up long enough that a Republican will temporarily hold the seat or gum up the works so badly that voters start believing elections are fake anyway. And there's no downside. There's no shame. There's no voter backlash. There's no financial penalties. Best case scenario, you overturn an election. Worst case scenario, there's no downside. And maybe you convince some people to question the election results the next time. That's how it works. And Judge Riggs said it really well in a statement where she said, quote, after millions of dollars spent, more than 68,000 voters at risk of losing their votes, I'm glad the will of the voters was finally heard 6 months and 2 days after Election Day. So now that Griffin has finally conceded, the State Board of Elections is going to certify the results, but Republicans have one more stunt. They have one more little, a piece of coal in their pockets that they're going to throw at the whole thing, which is that they took over the board and within hours of the concession, fired the executive director and replaced her with a Republican loyalist. They lost the election. They lost in court, but their last salvo, their last shot across the bow, is they took control of the board that oversees elections. And people still say, we have problems on both sides. This is one of those situations where the problem is Republicans. Let's not lose sight of the most important detail here either. They tried to throw out 68,000 ballots. That's really the headline. These were not fraudulent voters. These were not votes with meaningful problems. The Republican case boiled down to, we don't like these voters. People without a driver's license on file. not a requirement under the law. Overseas voters without a photocopied ID, not a requirement under the law. People missing bureaucratic details that don't invalidate a vote in North Carolina. So it was pure, unabashed, brazen disenfranchisement. No actual fraud, no evidence of fraud, just a desperate, cynical attempt to shrink the electorate after losing a race in their favor so that they could disqualify at least 734 more Democratic votes than Republicans, which would have flipped the race back to Griffin. Disgusting. So now we got, 6 months of absurd billionaire lawsuits, billionaire funded lawsuits. And Jefferson Griffin finally says, I concede. We shouldn't see it as a concession. He got caught and he gave up. That's how we should see it. You pulled the plug because the heist went wrong. You're not admitting that you never should have been trying to rob the bank in the first place. You just weren't able to rob it. And then you go, oh, yeah, we're not robbing the bank anymore. So this was about power. And we know that they're going to try to do it again the next time they have the opportunity. This is how they operate now. They've done it for so long. They've started probably, I don't want to understate it, but at least 13 years ago in 2012, they started developing this strategy. They've now attempted it numerous times. Another disgraceful assault on democracy. And it's a test run for 2026. It's a test run for 2028. And we really need to treat these legal assaults as what they are, which is soft coup attempts. If we don't take this seriously, it's plausible that at some point they will succeed. Trump didn't succeed in 2020. Great. Trump won in 2024, so he didn't try it. Jefferson Griffin didn't succeed here. But if we don't treat these as the legal assaults that they are and see them as soft coups and wrapping paper, it's only going to get worse. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.